Good afternoon. Welcome to this afternoon's presentation, Community Power, Finding Your Common Thread in the Design Industry. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our presenting co-sponsors, Woodmeister Master Builders and William Ravis Real Estate. This afternoon's panel sponsors are the Brant Nantucket, the Design Leadership Network, and the media sponsor is Ocean Home. So without further ado, I'll introduce Michael Diaz-Griffith. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Bill, and thank you all for being here today. We're excited to be discussing a topic that's very close to my heart and to the mission of the Design Leadership Network, which some of you may know about. I also see some members in the room, and Hadley Keller, our Director of Editorial and Community Engagement, who's taking a photo, like a proud mom of her kids. This topic is possibly the least sexy on the surface of any that's being discussed this week, right? We're talking about all sorts of beautiful design topics and history and preservation, and that's fabulous and it's important. But it's also really nice to look inward and to think about what makes the community that we're all a part of great. Why are we here today? For beauty, yes, but also for each other, and to be a part of a field and an industry that really means something. And so we're excited to be discussing that. I'm joined on stage by Beth Webb, Jonathan Savage, and Vani Sayeed, who are all esteemed designers and members of the DLN. And today I have the great pleasure of shutting up and letting them tell us their fabulous stories in what I hope will be a rather informal chinwag, because as much as we're going to talk about the power of community and connection, I have a feeling that we may also get a little bit of gossip too. So we're going to dive in, but do note that there will be time at the end for questions, and we encourage them. There's a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience on this stage. So we'll talk up here at the beginning, and then we'll bring it to you in the audience. So with no further ado, let's begin personally. And I'd like to ask you, just in a row here, if you could share a story or a moment in your career when friendship or camaraderie in the design field made a real difference to you, personally or professionally. Beth?
One outstanding incident was, I've been a part of LDC, DLN for a long time. They used to be the same thing, Leaders of Design. Yeah. Design Leadership Network. And actually it was a pivotal turning point in my career. I remember the first person I met, the first night I ever walked into a bar, Tom Kligerman over there, when we did my first trip was to Copenhagen. And Tom, I call him Mr. Mayor affectionately, but he was there to greet me and with open arms. And that's the nature of the community. Actually, you don't really engage in a DLN experience unless you want to be part of that community. Yep. But the people I met through all of those networking events were pivotal in changing the trajectory of my life and career. I met every editor, I met other interior designers who had been icons to me and unattainable. People that I thought I would never know in my lifetime were so incredibly helpful, Charlotte Moss being one of them. So they shepherded me through the whole sort of, here's how you get published, here's how you do a book, here are the ways around all of these things that seemingly to a younger designer, and I was younger then, seemed very unattainable.
Yeah, and I think we'll pull on some of those threads as the story unfolds and discuss specific ways that you were helped and helped others.
Well, then we all started to travel together. That's a trauma bonding situation no matter what. So when you're in a foreign country navigating, that sort of landscape, you bond intrinsically anyway. So that was the beautiful thing about it.
Well said as always. Jonathan?
So in 2016, I was living in Nashville. I'd spent years in New York up until 2010. And I was up for an award with Fashion Group International, an interior design award against Aaron Lauder. Obviously, I didn't win, which was fine. I was seated at a table at the front of Cipriani with my friend Jamie Drake. I've known Jamie a very long time. I've always been a big fan of everything Jamie does, and he said, oh, you're living in Nashville now. I never see you in New York. How do we change this? And I was like, well, you should let me do Kips Bay Show House, and you'll see lots of me. Be careful what you wish for. So probably 3 months later, my office phone rings. I'm in a client presentation, and my assistant walks in and says, Bunny Williams is on the phone. I said, okay, we're in a presentation. And he says, but Bunny Williams is on the phone. So, okay, great. So I called Bunny back as soon as we finished our client meeting, and she said, we'd love to have you do Kips Bay in New York. Small town boy living in Tennessee. No one was doing Kips Bay unless you were a New Yorker at that time. So obviously I said yes, and spent basically 3 months, pounding the pavement in New York City to showcase that this boy from Nashville can do this. And I think Jamie, about once a year, I write him a note and say, because of you, I really got to get a really good start, a solid foundation. And today, in 2017, when the show house opened, I ended up with the cover of the New York Times style section.
Wow.
So that was pretty good.
Go you.
That's awesome.
And I've chaired the Kips Bay Palm Beach now for 4 years. So you never know. And the world's a wonderful place with great people.
Yeah.
It's just you got to know what to ask for, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah. No, and Charlotte, Bunny, and Jamie, all icons of the field, are all like that. They've all pulled a lot of people up. And I think that's another topic we'll be discussing. Vani, something that has a moment when friendship or camaraderie really helped you out.
Lots of fabulous stories, but there's one that really stuck with me. I had just moved from San Francisco to the Boston area, and I had a new baby, and I had a 5-year-old, and I ran into this mom in my daughter's kindergarten class, and she was an established Boston designer, and we just got along. She was super friendly and helpful, and she recommended me to her best friend who had just moved back from Amsterdam, was renovating a beautiful historic home in Brookline, and said, Vani, this is too close for comfort. I trust you. I have a great vibe. Meet my friend. Do this project. It'll be a great start for you. I mean, this was fantastic. Who hands over a project like that? And that just took off from there, and here I am.
Amazing. Pivotal moments, right? It
Right?
just takes
Yeah.
one person being generous to
Yeah.
make the change. So, I think that we all feel that the design industry is a little bit less competitive and a little bit soft around the edges than it was 20 and 30 years ago. I mean, we've all experienced or heard stories about the time when people were fiercely protective of their sources, sharp-elbowed, and I'm not saying that that doesn't exist at all, but I think that in general, this is a friendlier industry. I can say for certain it's friendlier than fashion and the arts, so well done, everybody. And the DLN has been a part of that over the past 20 years, but so have so many organizations, so many initiatives. Kips Bay is one. Events like Nantucket by Design are among the sort of change makers in creating more community. Social media has probably opened up the culture. But just to give this conversation some context, if we could just talk a little bit about that previous culture that you may remember from early in your career, Beth.
I'm old.
No, you're 25 years old, but you started really young. And Jonathan and Vani, just maybe towards the beginning of your careers, how have things changed since then? Beth, could you?
I think it's changed tremendously, and I actually, I call it group therapy too. I think everyone wants a comrade in arms, and so whenever I'm at these events, whether it be East Hampton or today in Nantucket or any of the various and sundry events we have amongst our community of, peers, we often find ourselves really in a group therapy session. We all share the same stories. We were just talking about before, we need to do the nanny diaries, which is the equivalent for the design industry edition, because it would be a bestseller. I mean, we all share the same traumas. We all share, all of our clients pretty much share the same traits, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, you get in a room with a bunch of us and we will talk each other's ears off.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful mechanism for sort of venting and we also share sources. I work all over the country. And if I'm doing a job in San Francisco, I did have a job in San Francisco. I called Suzanne Tucker and I said, Suzanne, I'm starting this job in Hillsborough. Can you help me? She rolled out the red carpet, gave me every single one of her workrooms, her best sources. Charlotte was coming to Atlanta one day. She said, Beth, give me all of your go-tos in Atlanta, Georgia. I made a short list for her, which turned into a very long list. Not that she didn't know a lot of those things, but I find that that's the best part of what we do.
Yeah.
Is sharing our mutual resources.
Facilitating that activity is one of the most common, that's what the DLN office is about every single day. It's wild. Like, just helping someone find a last mile receiver can be kind of life-changing in the moment.
No, I have my peers call me all the time. I need a receiver in Atlanta. I'm starting a project there. We all work everywhere, so to share that information is invaluable.
When did you think that it changed, though, to be more in this vein of sharing?
Well, I do think that there was an old school, an old guard there that was very proprietary about their sources. I think social media probably changed that tremendously because you could go down the rabbit hole and find out a lot more than you. Actually, I'm still looking for Stephen Gambrell's person, and I'm about to call his office.
Watch out.
He does not tag that person who does all his gorgeous shower doors. And if anyone knows who that is, please meet me after. Right. But anyway.
Yeah, Jonathan?
So I remember being in New York in 2005, and I worked for an esteemed designer, David Kleinberg, and my job was to go shopping. I shopped every day. I loved it. Here's a button, go find the best buttons, or here's a grosgrain ribbon, go downtown, find a grosgrain ribbon. The internet was not as informative back then. And I remember coming across a store, probably in the 60s, called Tinder Buttons.
Yes.
And it had every button known to man. And so I went to the button mecca, and I thought I'd really done something big. So I came home to David Kleinberg's desk with a pile of buttons. He goes, oh, sweetie, everyone has those buttons.
David.
My bubble was busted. They do? Well, I've never seen these buttons before. And I was very impressed with myself. But if you look at social media today, we tag. If Tinder Buttons was still here, we'd be tagging Tinder Buttons. Everyone wants sources. Just go to our Instagram. We're open books today.
We used to have, I get a DM probably 3 times a week for a source.
Yeah. But this week, Beth and I have been traveling together, and it's all about sharing. Sharing is caring. Sharing is like what we do. And the way Beth is going to use a Laura Piana carpet is different than the way I'm going to use it. And we all have our style. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. And so I'm an open book of sources and happy to share.
Yeah.
I think if you don't share and if we don't support artisans and makers, they go out of business.
Right.
And
Correct.
we've lost the decorative paint specialist or the plasterer.
And you don't have friends at DLN events if you don't share, by the way.
Take note.
Actually, no.
Yeah.
Will not.
Take note. Yeah, it's a rule.
Yeah.
It's a rule. So that's all fun, but I want to deepen this a little bit and talk for a moment about the sort of deeper realities of being in this business. Beth, you've mentioned clients. Working with clients is one of the most emotionally taxing things that happens in the activity of design. We had a workshop in Ojai where we talked about this for days.
You have to be a marriage counselor.
That's it.
You have to wear a lot of hats, literally.
And I'd love, starting with you, Vani, to talk about how your friendships in the industry have helped you to navigate the more vulnerable parts of this work. Moments of doubt or transition or reinvention. How's your community helped you through those moments?
I think the community is really strong. I think the fact that I have Zan and Lisa from New York here is just so fun.
Hey.
We're sharing a house. And Liz. And so I think I have so many stories to share. For example, I was actually at a DLN event in Rome, and it was the last night of, in that fancy
Palazzo
palace.
Colonna.
Oh my gosh. So I was admiring Nancy Epstein's gold and black suit, and she was admiring my sari, and we was chit-chatting. And then just in conversation, where we talked about India. I'm Indian, of course, so it's a brown girl with a funny accent, right? So, and so then she's like, well, when you're in India, you have to go see the factory where we manufacture all these beautiful hand-inlaid tiles. And so then when I actually was bringing a bunch of designers and architects from coast to coast back home, it's another story we'll share in a little bit.
Yeah.
But so then she had Jill Cohen meet us in Jaipur, and we went to this factory. It's a phenomenal factory, massive CNC machines, and they had a whole group of artisans who were generational, like Pieter Druder work, like literally hand inlaid from folks who were doing inlay work at the Taj Mahal, like just gorgeous stuff. And we actually got a sneak peek for Laurie Weitzner's new collection, which hadn't quite launched, but it was very exciting. End of the day, it was that one meeting that led us to, you'll see some of our work. We've done so many beautiful projects using artistic tile, right? And then I made a connection with the factory where we've done some custom tile work. So you'll see a bathroom where we did a feature, white Macrana marble tiles, about yay big and 200 pounds each, and inlaid with tiny little mirrors. And we designed it, they made it, they shipped it, we installed it in Boston, like
all from that one.
Evening. I didn't see her ever again. We text each other on occasion, like literally. That was that one connection.
I love it.
There you go.
I love it, and they happen every day.
Yeah.
Jonathan, a moment of doubt, transition, or particular important moment that you can identify where your community helped you through?
Well, I think as a designer, we're very curious. Most of us are very curious. And so if I'm going to a destination like Nantucket, I know to call Kathleen. If I'm going to San Francisco, I know who to call. We're a walking Rolodex of friends, vendors. If you want to go to India, who do you call? Sure. And that's all these connections to me is what makes this industry so special. And you never know, sitting next to a dinner, you get seated next to a stranger in the industry, and lo and behold, you're from the same town, or you're both Southern, or what are these different things and these connections. And you always have that, and you always can reference that in conversation. And I think it's the best part of what we do. And our clients use us for these great resources.
You're a travel guide.
We are a travel guide.
Beth, any sort of moments of vulnerability that you have been able to bring to others?
There are times where you just think you're toast and you cannot do it one more second of one more day, and your peers lift you up.
I'm going to go full Barbara Walters and ask you to tell us about one of those moments.
I
glory
actually really did have that happen.
Tell us.
There was a time that I just woke up one morning, I'm like, I'm not sure I can do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I was really drained, and I was really exhausted, and we'd had a lot going on, a lot of work, a lot of installations, and I'm just like, I'm not sure I can do this anymore. And then you also have that moment where you have sort of writer's block. I don't know what you call it in our industry, but it's writer's block for an author. And I remember being at our farm in Alabama, and it was over the Christmas holidays, and I woke up having had this very vivid dream. And it was wildly imaginative, it was wildly creative, and it was just like, I woke up that morning, I thought, if I can dream it, I can do it.
Wow.
Because I honestly just didn't think I had anything else left in me. But, I think too, your peers really help. I mean, honestly, when you're at the end of your rope and you do something like this, people have asked, how's the book tour? And I said, I love it. I love every part of it because I get to be around all of these wonderful people. I met 12 great new friends in the last few days in East Hampton, and it's invigorating. It actually really helps you go on. It's stimulating, and as to Jonathan's point, we're inherently curious. You have to be, and you cannot be averse to change. So we're inherently not change averse. We embrace change. We love it.
Don't you
So-
guys feel that, speaking of books, don't you feel that in the design industry, people really help each other to understand the process of putting together a book? I'm hearing designers discuss that all the time.
I get a call once a week.
Hadley and I do too, but tell us a bit about that. You know, did you experience that kind of support yourself? Do you offer it to others?
Yeah, I'm happy to offer it to anyone that asks. I feel like I was curious about doing a book during COVID. I have all these images. I shoot a lot with Douglas Friedman. He's a well-known photographer. What do I do with these images? So I went home one night and I told Brad, who's sitting in the back row here, that I think I should do a book. He's like, well, how do you do that? I don't know. We'll figure it out. And so I was in Rome at a DLN event,
Rome, guys.
I know, right?
Magical city.
I know.
sitting in that palace, and the lady next to me had just produced her second book. And I said, well, how do you do a book? She's like, well, you need a writer. This is who wrote our book. You should call her. She's wonderful. I'm like, oh, okay. Get on the plane, DM her again. Who did you say wrote your book? And she's actually who wrote my book. And so I think it's about being there to help others when they need it. My book is called The Savage Style. It was produced with Gibbs Smith Publishers. And I was familiar with them. They did a coffee table book for Kip Space Show House a couple years ago. We were very pleased with that. And it takes an army.
Yeah.
And to know all the ins and outs, we don't know. I was learning the process, and I loved it. I loved the process. I'd fly to New York once a month and sit in the hotel lobby and just talk to my book writer.
Yeah.
And then she would come back with a chapter a month later. I'm like, oh my gosh, did I say that? And so I dedicated my book to my parents, and it was so rewarding to go home to our farm in Tennessee, like, Mom and Dad, look,
Yeah.
this is what people see when they see my book, and how proud they were. It was just a wonderful experience
Oh
altogether.
my gosh. No, that feeling.
It's so exciting.
And every designer deserves to have that. I just want to say that to all of the designers in the room. Your work is important, it's more than valid, and it deserves that kind of memorialization, that sense of permanency that a book brings. Beth, Jonathan, what is your top tip from the book process, you know, in the spirit of sharing?
I've literally been called like probably 10 or 12 times since I did the first book by other designers doing
Yeah.
their book. And the mentoring process is, to me, one of the most fulfilling things that I got out of it. To be that person to help them through the process. There's a lot of process.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money.
Many processes.
Yeah, and you need someone to help you navigate. Whether, I started with Jill Cohen, she was my agent. Rizzoli did the book, the first book and the second book. But to navigate the art direction, the writer, the book tour alone is a million moving parts and pieces, and it's 6 and 8 months in the making just to get to the book tour part. Your releases, all the PR, everything that goes along with it. People don't really know what that entails.
And they think
so
the publisher is going to take care
They
of
don't.
so
They
many
just
things the
don't.
publisher does not
the
take care of.
publisher does not take care of it. Really, your book agent doesn't take care of it. It's mostly in-house, and it's very time-consuming. And Tom, you know that. You've done a
Oh, yeah.
few. Jade Scott, you too. But it is it's quite frankly a very expensive vanity press, but it changes the way that everyone looks at your work,
Yeah.
weirdly, because I'll have clients who will walk in for an initial interview and they will have seen my entire repertoire on Instagram, on my website, every which way but Sunday. But the minute you hand them that actual piece of that book,
Literature, yeah.
Literature.
Physical object.
it's been uncanny to watch because it is a completely different experience.
Yeah.
To turn the pages and see your work in that format, it's completely different for them.
Yeah. Even in 2025, books, print media makes things feel real
Yeah.
Yeah.
and legitimate.
It's like we've all been on Zoom. How many of you have been on Zoom for years and years and years and years? And I met Vani today for the first time. I mean, it's like, oh, I don't know you. I've seen you a lot, but I don't really know you
Yeah.
because we've been in that two-dimensional world. So when you're in the three-dimensional and they open that book, they're like, oh, same thing.
I love it. Vani, I want to talk a little bit about your trip to India and about sort of events like this one, like the DLN summits in general, because I think, at least in my 3 years with the
right up.
DLN, look, there it is. Is this at Holi? Or were
This
you
is
just
Holi.
creating?
that
No.
looks fun.
Yeah, it was the last day in Udaipur, and that's Agra. Yeah.
I love it. I mean,
And there's Jill, and Jill's the one who first introduced me to that woman in Brookline. So there you go.
and here's your work, your
yeah.
beautiful work.
And actually, that's the tile we're talking
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's almost like we timed this. Something that we've thought a lot about in the last 3 years at the DLN is what makes an event or an experience feel deep and real, authentic, important, you know? There are enough showroom parties in the industry. There doesn't need to be another showroom party. I mean, we love showrooms, we love parties, we love showroom parties, but you don't need the DLN to provide more of that. And certainly with your trip, you were aiming to take a deeper approach to exposing this group to India, to its craft traditions. You know, tell us what you did to make that event or that trip feel deep and authentic and lasting, and the impression it made. And Jonathan and Beth, after that, if you could tell us sort of what makes events feel that way for you. Is it small group discussion, intimacy, et cetera? But let's start with you, Vani.
So 2015, I was invited by Baldwin Hardware to sit on their design council and give them R&D, give them feedback on the R&D, on product development. And so it was a really phenomenal experience because I got to meet all these creative minds, architects and designers from across the country, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, and everybody in between. So it was really interesting. It was just nice to see what other people are thinking, what their markets are doing. So I made a lot of good connections within that group. I think I met Lisa there too, and then I met Lisa again, and then again, and now we're buddies. Anyway, so what happened is we all became really good friends and then through that group, I met so many other creatives. So I met Nicholas Moriarty from Chicago, who in turn introduced me to Drew McCucken and the Sarah sisters from Scavalini. And I've done work with all of them eventually. It was just such a phenomenal group, right? So over the years, everybody's been saying, oh, bring us home to India. I go back every year. My mother still, well, she passed earlier, but I still have a lot of family, but I go back every year and bring us back. I'm like, well, I can bring you back to my mom's house, but let me plan a trip. So during COVID, I put this whole trip together, and I took 15 of us back home. So we were from LA, Seattle, DC, Chicago, Boston, New York. So 15 of us went 12 days, and what a blast it was. Also because not only are they creative-minded, they're architects, they were very interested in not just the cultural aspect, but also the architecture, the educational part of it. We did a side trip to Chandigarh, Pierre Jeanneret, and so all of that, and so that just helped us become closer as a group, but also express our design intentions in our work in a different way, and that's the feedback I got. I wanted a fun trip, like you saw the Holi photographs. It was a festival. We, at the end of the spring, the start of the spring, towards the end of our trip, we went to factories. We went to a paper making facility, and of course, shop for jewelry and all kinds of fun stuff. So it was a really interesting trip because it was just not educational or just not fun. It was all of it and in between.
It's about having that mix, actually, right?
Yeah, and we actually took a 2-day break. I think there was a lot of fatigue because there was so much of information. So we took a 2-day break. We went to a tiger resort. We went safari. We saw 2 tigers. It was lots of fun.
Like you do.
Yeah, it was just. I'm like, I just willed the tigers to come out.
I love it. I love it. We're all going to be calling you when we're planning our next trip to India. It's funny, you just reminded me, after the Mexico City summit that the DLN hosted in 2023, we had an excursion to Oaxaca, which is a very special place that is very spiritual and political and filled with craft traditions that are extant. and being very successfully preserved by communities. Each sort of art or craft is exclusive to a village. And so the whole village structure sort of colludes in keeping that craft alive, which is an amazing thing. And we did a lot with that. But in one of those villages, we had an offering for the Day of the Dead, an ofrenda. And a woman that we were meeting with offered to lead us through the sort of ritual of remembering the dead. Now, you've got to understand, back at home, everyone was looking at our Instagrams and saying, look at how fabulous Steele's flower crown is. You know, it was all about the look of the thing. But in that room in Oaxaca, and Hadley was there, people were crying, remembering their loved ones who maybe they had never talked about openly or talked about what the meaning of those deaths was to them. And there was one person whom I won't name who was able to talk about an important passing in her life that she hadn't opened up about. And you know, I'll never forget Hadley and Megan and some of our other team members reporting back about the depth of that experience for everyone there. And it's not what you'd expect when you see designers gathering online, right? You just think it's all fabulous, martinis, caftans, but
It's a lot of
There's all that
martinis
too.
and
and
caftans.
there, okay, listen, there's not a martini shortage in the design community. There's not a caftan shortage, but you engineered that. The caftini, okay, done, copyright, trademark.
Oh, that's really good.
I love it.
It could be the theme for our next party.
Yeah, it can be.
So Jonathan, Beth, you know, what makes something like this extra special to you? Where do you find the depth in those connections? Is it?
Well, I
you
mean,
do-
honestly, with all of these things that we do, we craft our travel around it.
Yeah.
The post and the pre. We might have a summit, we might have a big meeting, but we're actually always looking forward to the pre or the post.
Yeah.
Because we spend a lot of time and effort talking to our friends and figuring out where we're going, either before or after. And that's the party of it. And we've formed these friendships that, gosh, they're over a decade old now.
Yeah, yeah.
And then some.
And all the spouses just have to get used to
The
it.
spouses do have to get used to it. I mean, they prefer the pre and post to the
But
summit.
I think in the beginning, we, as a new person coming into DLN, everyone's arriving on the 15th, they're leaving on the 20th. Well, that's the first summit. The second summit's like, what day are you arriving?
We're going to be gone for 3 weeks.
Yeah,
so-
where are we going?
Get ready.
And at a point, you got to have a cutoff. Like we can't.
Yeah.
I can't stay a month, but
I love it. I think whenever you get a more intimate group together, right, whether it's in the official activities or on your own,
Again,
it
it's
just makes
trauma
it so much
bonding.
deeper.
I mean, the
we see it
first-
right there. That's what that was
Yeah.
in Manhattan.
But the first trip, when we went to Egypt before Morocco, and it was like a 3-day trip to Egypt, but then we were heading to Marrakesh. And we were all so cross-eyed and exhausted. We were living on 2 hours of sleep, riding on camels, doing, you know, I mean, the smoking a hookah every night. And but
was
we
not
do
there.
all these amazing things, and they're so stimulating and inspirational. And that's the best part of it. You come back completely recharged, ready to go again, and that's what it's about.
Yeah.
So, as all of this is happening, your offices are presumably still ticking along, right? We have to hope. And I'm interested to kind of shift from the context of your own colleagues and peers a little bit more to your offices. What do you do as a leader in your own firm, as a boss, as a manager, to try to encourage, you know, younger designers to embrace this culture of connection? What do you do to model it for them? And sort of in general, you know, what do you think we can do today to model an even more generous industry for the future? Do you have any thoughts about that from your own practice or even just wishes for the industry?
So I did a book launch party last September in Nashville. And Calvin, who's here in the front row on my team, was like, we have to have a party. What are we going to do? So Calvin's new to the design world. I'm like, well, we're going to be critiqued. It better be good. So where do we begin and what do we do? And I think involving young designers in the process of putting together an event for the industry. When I planned my book tour, Calvin's been with me most of the stops along the way. And so I think it gives young designers a perspective of, yes, we do beautiful work. Yes, we go in people's homes and transform them and give them this lifestyle. But there's also camaraderie with being here today that Calvin wouldn't experience sitting in the office necessarily. But I think it gives you motivation, or I'm not sure if Calvin would like to say that.
Confirm?
But I think it kind of promotes the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
And, there's nowhere that you can take us that we don't know a designer there.
Yeah.
And so it's just an interesting, fabric that we've been weaving over time. And there's designers you hit it off with. There's some that you don't necessarily hit it off with. Beth and I have been together since Thursday morning, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and doing just fine. So
Yeah. No, but giving younger designers a sense of what they are coming into, right? If they stick with the industry, it's an enormously powerful thing, because otherwise they're stuck with the clients while you're off connecting.
Well, I think the experiential learning is so key. I mean, my whole staff goes on the installations, the photo shoots. I introduce them as much as possible when there are events in town to all the people that I've become friends with over the years. You want them to know your world, and you want them to know what that entails.
Yes.
That world.
Yeah.
And I have to agree with both of them. We do the same. I do bring our young designers. Sometimes I'll bring the interns too to parties. I make sure that they're actually above 21 so they can drink. Or I don't tell their parents. But it's important for them to see that. It's important for them to experience some of that. The other thing I do is I teach every now and then at a design school, Nantucket College, which is north of the city. And I teach an occasional design course to undergrad students, not only because I enjoy it, but I want to understand what they are thinking, what is the idea of design, but also bring real life experience to the classroom setting, into the classroom, right? And so the other thing I also notice, a lot of the young people, they're so good at all these computer programs. They're fast. They'll come up with a schematic in no time. But how do you apply that in real life?
Yeah.
Like, that's so important. I also tell them AI is not everything. We are creating environments for people. Keep the human connection in mind. And I do that in my studio too. So
it's helpful when you're to get out from behind your desk and to remember that in a room like this.
They love it.
So tomorrow when I'm hiring someone or somebody's coming into the office with a portfolio, they have a much better sense, especially from the school that I teach at. So.
Well, I think also if I'm in my office and someone needs something, like, oh, there was a clearance house fabric, there's no more stock. I'm like, oh, I'll call David. He's back there somewhere. Like, who's David? And I'm like, well, I'll handle.
Actually, Clearance House did not have stock last week. Something that I really wanted.
And so you can reach out to your connections and use them and say, hey, my office is trying to get this. Can you help?
Yeah.
And we can move mountains pretty quick that way.
Yeah.
Where my staff necessarily wouldn't know where to start.
Right.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference.
And actually, the staff who get exposed to these events get exposed to the reality of product companies being run by people. I mean, we have David, we have Lindsay, we have so many partners in the audience of the DLN. And one of the things I love about our partnership program is that these are people who are leaders in their firms. They're not logos on a logo waterfall,
It's
right?
a real
It's about
person.
calling them up.
Well,
It's a text message away.
we
That's
actually did a focus group with Jeffrey Bouchard day before yesterday.
Oh, yeah,
at
yeah.
East
Heard
Hampton.
about that.
He was bringing out all his new SKUs of the wallpaper. This is Philip
Absolutely.
Jeffries. And he had a bunch of us over for cocktails, and
We were
lo and
very
behold, there we
honest.
were in a focus group on his porch.
That's it.
And to that end, I want to add one more thing. So Cravat invited me to the Cravat Experience in New York.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think a couple of weeks ago. This Frankie, hey. And what was fantastic is they have a world-class library. Like if you didn't know.
It's incredible.
I mean, both in the city and Long Island, there are drawers and drawers of centuries old, just textiles, design, books. Like, it's a treat. I was like a kid in a candy shop. But they were so gracious to let like this young woman who had come with me to experience that. She is an intern, just young designer, but they weren't like only the principals allowed. Everybody was allowed. So that was just a phenomenal experience. For her to see where does it all start.
Like
Yes.
here-
And
like
Scott
the
Kravitz
V&A.
was showing, and there's actually a picture. There's Scott showing us a Tree of Life, textile from like Indonesia. It was probably 200 years old or something. It's just,
It's
so
this,
those are the kind of experience that I want to enjoy, but also share it with
Yeah.
my team.
But Kravitz also knows she'll be placing those orders soon too.
Yeah, she
Oh, of
does, and she
course.
does.
And
She
so
will call them.
It's all about keeping it moving.
but understanding there's a human behind
Of
every,
course.
there are
Yeah.
humans behind every single company. It's funny, this younger designer was saying, I don't need to be a part of an organization like this. I've got it all figured out. And I said, so you don't need a direct line to David Kohler in case something happens to your
Right.
faucet? I mean,
Right.
that is so powerful. One call to David and your faucet will get replaced very
Makes a big
quickly.
difference.
You
It
know,
happens
those
all the
things
time.
matter. And as I was looking to see Frank, I saw Kathleen Hay, just so many devoted DLN community members. And I'm really reminded in this moment, too, of our foundation, which supports design students, and how our partners have been just as integral to its success as our members. So we're mentoring design students and helping them gain access to the industry. Of course, designers have an important role to play in paying it forward to young students, but these product company partners have also been opening the doors of their facilities to show these students what production looks like. They've been talking to them about alternative careers inside a product company doing design in case the interiors world or architecture doesn't work out for them. I mean, it's really amazing. And these conversations don't happen if we don't create spaces for them. So it's great to be in one of those spaces today. And as we wrap up, I just want to ask each of you, brilliant people who've shared so much with us, if you were to sort of wrap all this up, what would you really like to see more of in the design industry in the future in terms of relationships, relationship building, community? And you can be really frank. I mean, we all know that traveling together is fun, but there are still issues. There's still competitiveness, a little bit of angularity and elbowing at times.
FOMO.
So FOMO, but it
Lots
could
of
be the way that we think about collaborations between, architects and interior designers, or it's up to you. But what's something you'd love to see in this world of relationships that would make things just even better?
Well, I think actually, and I can use two examples specifically, and I'm not doing this to promote DLN necessarily, but this is something that they did that was pivotal on two occasions, and they really stand out in my mind. When COVID happened, they immediately did this sort of roundtable and community conversation
Yes.
that started for weeks on end. We all thought our lives were over, and not because of COVID. We thought that business was going to go away, that we'd be, high and dry, and what the hell were we going to do?
Yep.
And they sort of, immediately pulled together these community conversations that were weekly,
Yeah.
if not bi-weekly. I can't remember now.
beginning, yeah, they were.
And so 400 of us would get on these community calls.
Yeah.
Well, they actually divided it into groups, so it wasn't that overwhelming. But the same thing happened again with the tariffs. So the week the tariffs were announced, you all mobilized, and we had 400 people, manufacturers, interior designers, and architects on that call, the first call.
Yep.
And then there have been consecutive calls ever since. And that's community, that's communication. That's the most important part of what we do, is actually figure it out as a collective and not as a singular entity.
That's it.
So, I think that moving forward, that to me is the collaboration that has been rare air.
Yeah.
And one that I'd like to see moving forward forever and always.
Yeah. Well said, and thank you for that. And I want to recognize Hadley Keller for being such
Yes,
an important
Hadley,
part
thank you. And you
of helping
moderated
us.
it beautifully.
That's it.
All of it, with really intelligent questions, I might add.
Well, she's an intelligent person. And at that time, I was in Milan for Design Week. You remember I popped
you
on
were
at
on
the
the- you
beginning
were on
from
the-
an
in the
Uber.
car.
But I was in the car, but what was so interesting is I was meeting with all of these Italian partners of the DLN, but also factory owners who are not in the DLN, whom we were meeting with to try to understand the tariff situation from an EU perspective. And to a person, no matter how experienced or seasoned or sort of even intimidating some of these factory owners could be with a lot of authority that comes from that type of role. They just needed to talk about the problems of the day. No one had any solutions.
Nobody had a solution.
But they needed to talk it out, and they needed to understand where other people were, because we can navigate against each other.
Like Carrie
and with each
Kravitz
other.
started the conversation, I believe, that day.
Absolutely.
And he was like, here's our solution, and this is what we're going to do. And then, Philip Jeffries kept on. I mean, they're manufacturing all over the world. And they were in huge crisis situation. But they were listening to their end user, us, and how we were going to navigate it with our clients, and we were listening to them as a consumer, figuring out how we were going to deal with it with our clients.
And finding the solution together to how
Right.
to navigate.
Right.
Jonathan, something you'd love to see more of in the industry.
So I was invited to do a tour of the BSH Appliance Group's offices in Newport Beach, California, maybe 10 years ago. They get a group of designers together. We fly out. We experience Bosch, Thermador, and Gaggenau appliances. I'm a cook. I like to cook. I never knew all the technology that they offered. I never knew exactly the Gaggenau appliance is beautiful, but how do you operate it? And so because of Veranda Magazine, I was exposed to this, and I was a nerd. I was so interested to learn how they do their things. And so they invited me back to join a design council. And so there's 20 designers in a design council for BSH appliances. And we use their product all the time in most of our projects. And so because of that invitation, I've been on their design council almost 10 years.
Wow.
And I can tell you exactly what a star burner does. I can tell you the whole thing. But it's important for me to be educated. They educated me. So I can educate my client and say, you need a Thermador cooktop, and this is why. Or you need this fabric, I saw this being woven, or what have you.
And that is really pivotal.
It is.
The storytelling.
It's incredible to go to the Laura Piana factory. You can then explain to your clients why it's so expensive and why they need to own
You need
Laura
to own
Piana.
it.
Because once you've seen it done, you have a much more profound. Same thing with McKinnon and Harris. It was a
Absolutely.
game changer to go to McKinnon and Harris
Yeah.
and see why that sofa's $26,000.
But they invest in us, and in return, we've invested in them.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a win-win for everybody, and our clients can walk away feeling like, I got the best. This is what I needed to know.
Because you advocated for each other. actually.
Exactly.
And
I
then
mean,
for the end user.
I've sent a client to Bonacina in
Yeah.
Italy. I'm like, go see what this is and go see why it's different.
And you understand not only the cost, but with Bonacina, the lead times.
Right.
You understand why it takes a while.
Right.
Because there's a little woman whose great grandmother worked in the same factory doing
Right.
the same thing, and she's following the same process from the 1880s.
Right.
It's amazing. Vani,
Let's
something.
talk about your quilts.
Exactly. Vani, something that you'd love to see more of.
I think just being here today, think about it. I've only followed these two on Instagram, and here we actually are. I have two new friends.
I love
among so many new other friends I'll meet over the next couple of days. I think more events like this, I think we should all make an effort to come out there and not feel shy. I'm the kind of person with a heart on my sleeve, and I'll go out there and just introduce myself, shake hands, and this is fantastic. More of these.
What beautiful words to end with, because the clock just hit 0, 0, 0, 0. And,
Dunzo.
and you are a good person, and so are you two. You're all sharing, and you care, and we all need to see more of that. But I think in this room today, we saw enough to be inspired. I want to thank the NHA again. I'd love to thank Bill and Marla for helping to convene this space today, the wonderful ladies at Niven Breen, everyone else who was a part of creating this experience. And we do have a couple of minutes for a Q&A if anyone has any burning questions. Maybe we didn't get enough gossip and we want to eke a bit more out. With just a note that if you are going to ask a question, raise your hand up high so that a mic can be brought to you. Any thoughts or questions? Well, Hadley Keller's in the audience, so I bet she can cook something up. We've got
Best buttons?
Today, I'm not sure.
But I'll
Sorry.
answer that. I know what
Oh.
I did back in the day, which is, when Martha Stewart, first came out, I'd go to the back of the magazine, and now you can Google it. But if you go best buttons via Martha Stewart, it'll take you there. There's a world.
Oh, that's smart.
There are some wholesalers of buttons in the fashion district in the
Yeah,
garment
in the
district in
30s.
New York.
Same thing with ribbons.
And in other cities, I would just
Yeah.
say go to the fashion side to find something that other people
Yeah.
aren't sourcing. Any other questions or thoughts? Yes, we'll bring the mic to you.
As a client, my question is, what makes a really good client for you? What do you most like?
Key question.
So I always have an answer to that. And I tell my clients this to their face. I can only be as good as my client lets me be. So it's a collaboration. It's a total collaboration. I love the collaboration. I embrace it. But trust is really hard, particularly with a first-time client and you. Because with my client, I'm not cookie cutter, so I'm like, I need to know what you want. I need to figure out how you live. It's not my house at the end of the day, and it's not my way or the highway. So the question I get a lot of times from my client is, do you understand what I want? And I'm like, so we have exhaustive conversations. I ask for Pinterest boards, whatever inspirational images they have. And out of that, I can extrapolate sort of where they want to go. I need to know how many dogs you have. Do you have cats? Do you have kids, grandchildren? Are you a neatnik? Can you handle a little lemon on the marble? But at the end of the day, it's about trust. And that's what makes the project really wonderful, and the team.
And trusting the process.
And trusting the
trusting the
process.
process.
It's like, I'm not going to micromanage my attorney. No, and you've got to be a good business person. I say you get 5% design on the front end, 5% design on the hind end. Everything else in between is business and logistics. Yeah. So you better be really good at business and logistics, because that's what makes the project work. And that's what makes it deliver on time. It's what, I tell my children I get paid to be OCD.
Yeah, and that's what that workshop in Ojai was about,
Yes,
It was
customer
about
service.
designers knowing and finding models for going the extra mile before the client has even asked the question.
Think ahead.
Such that they don't have to ever ask the question.
And the process is hard
Oh, it's
for everybody.
grueling.
Whether it's finding asbestos or doors on the intercoastal that aren't really attached correctly. There's always things that happen.
The unexpected.
Renovations are tough.
I'm doing my own renovation right now. It's hideous.
No, you said it was distracting your husband from paying
My
attention
husband
to
is
your
at
credit
home
card bills.
dealing with the renovation.
That's a good thing after this week.
That's it, because I think they've been tearing it up on the shopping expedition. Any final thoughts, Jonathan, about the client?
No, I think, what I take to a client is what I believe that the client is looking for, is needing. After our conversations, we go do our homework, we do what we do, and we go back to them with, I suggest this, this, and this. And at that point, you either, okay, great, I like 90% of it, or what have you. And then I think it's just the collaboration back and forth until everyone's happy with what we're moving forward with.
Yeah.
And then the process begins.
And I think the process is important, because there's a point in your project where you're all pumped up about everything. And there's a point in the project where you're completely annoyed with everybody around you. And we're literally in the doghouse, right? Until the last reveal. And then we're besties.
And the reveal
till the
is-
next
it's-
project.
And that's like having the baby.
Yeah.
Because after 9 months of pregnancy and 24 hours of labor, you finally birth this baby. And you forget all about the labor pains, because everyone's just like, oh my God, the baby's beautiful. And we're so happy now.
The design hormones sort of make you
Right.
forget the pain. We have a question here.
I have a comment
A comment.
about what makes a good client. And I'm a builder.
Oh, brilliant.
And so what makes a good client is a client who hires their interiors person on day one.
Yes.
Right from the beginning.
Here,
Work
here.
together, the team.
The client who sort of shops around for their interiors person after the architect and builder and the landscape architect are on the team that's the one where the interiors person comes in and realizes everything we've done wrong before they got on the team.
We will not take a project unless we're hired from the very beginning.
It's really great to have the team in place when you start your project.
Yeah.
Makes for a
It's
successful
that-
Thank you for
project.
that.
Sort of collaboration that is key.
Lots of redo otherwise.
Okay, I think we have
Change
time
orders
for
are
a
bad.
last question here, right towards the front. Hand up. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm an interiors writer, so I see a lot of interiors. I was inspired to ask you a question based on this one comment that you made about how young designers are so addicted to and fixated on the use of technology in interior design. They want to predict these spaces before they're even made. How do you know what goes on that shelf if you haven't been on that trip and collected that old beautiful bowl or whatever? And one sort of common thread that I see in what's posted in these magazines is there aren't very many new interior designers being featured in their 20s, early 30s. And I think it's because, I'm getting to a question, one second. I think it's because there's an element of like soul or scale or something missing that they're being taught in design schools. And I have a unique perspective. I went to interior design school, and I will say there was hardly any focus on the studying of styles or places or designers
Yeah.
of the past.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so what
Absolutely.
would
Design
you...
history, connoisseurship.
So what sort of advice would you give to maybe young designers in the room or people just starting out, how to develop that soul and sense of proportion? Is it going to visit historic homes? Is it kind of forgetting how to use that technology and going to work for an old school designer? Is it, what do you think people can do to sort of redevelop that sense of soul and something that people will want to have in their homes 20 years from now?
That is a great
Sorry,
great
that was
No,
such a
it's a
ramble.
fantastic
But
question.
question. And I wish Charlotte Moss was here to answer it, because Charlotte and I both come from sort of disparate backgrounds. We were not trained for interior design at all. I was art history, Charlotte was on Wall Street, but she insists that her young designers go do something cultural everywhere
Yes.
they go. Go to
Yeah.
a museum, go to a historic house museum. You learn by looking. And I was an art history major, I was at Sotheby's, and you develop your aesthetic from looking and looking and looking and looking. Because that's what they're lacking in design school. They don't teach the history
No,
of.
they say they do,
They don't
but it's
teach
still a lie.
textiles. You are literally on CAD all day long. And believe me, I appreciate that deeply with my young designers. However, it's the missing link. And even with the young client, what they're doing now is this. We might be at Waterworks or whatever, and we're looking at tile, and they're looking at this. Because they'll look at the real thing, and then they're looking at Instagram or TikTok or whatever. They have to see, you'll see a lot of firms right now are doing that fabric or that whatever in situ, because the younger client can't understand it unless they see it.
Yeah.
So I keep getting asked, well, can I see it installed? And I'm like,
No, it doesn't
No.
work like that. I think if you're a young designer and you've made the choice not to go out and work for an established designer,
you're
and you-
making a big mistake.
huge. But if you're going to do that, you got to own what you put out there. So
Yep.
you need to know where you're going with it, stand behind it. You are going to mess up, but trial and error will get you somewhere. But also these cultural experiences like Beth's speaking on, if I hadn't worked in New York City, I would have never been trained to do what I do the way I do it. So you got to work for someone.
And
That's
there are
my biggest
A
suggestion.
lot of young designers are like, they work for someone like me for 2 years and then they hang their own shingle. And a ton did during COVID. And it was a big mistake, and I think they're going to find that with the next major recession.
We get calls all the time at the DLN office saying, I'm about to go out on my own. Can I become a member? And we say, no, you've been working for 2 years. March right back into your office, give it another decade, actually learn the trade, and then call us back. I mean, it doesn't mean that there aren't brilliant young people out on their own.
That's
Right.
how you
But that
learn.
training matters.
It
and then
matters.
you should become, a connoisseur of art and design for the rest of your life. Like, that is your job, to keep looking.
I
But
have a
they
story
sometimes
to
don't know
share.
that.
Can I
Yeah.
share a story? So I got my BFA in design in India. And the school I went to was a very traditional curriculum, had a very, very traditional curriculum. So for us, the first 2 years, they would make us do just life drawing, pencils, charcoal,
Brilliant.
just so we could understand proportion. We did, like you see in my studio, there's a set of color, blocks of colors on some of the photographs. I did that in 1989 out of gouache and mixing the paint color. I think just out of your own interest, if you just study life around you,
Yes.
experience it, touch it, feel it. It's great to work for a designer. That's a phenomenal work experience. But on your own, you got to educate yourself. Sketch, it doesn't have to be proportioned, but you won't know it till you don't touch it, till you don't draw it.
Or buy
draw a
fabric
chair.
online
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
without seeing the fabric.
And going and seeing how weaving is done, right?
Yeah.
Like you need all of those pieces of the puzzle in order to be a complete
Do a
design.
watercolor while you're, lying by the pool. It doesn't matter. Like I ran into this woman actually in Rhode Island. I was at the Cliff House this 2 weekends ago, and she was an architect out in New York, and we were just sitting. She was doing little watercolor patterns, and I was doing this watercolor landscape. She's like, we're both exchanging notes, and it was just downtime. But that's how you understand light, color, proportion, right? You have to be a self-starter. It has to come from within you. It has to be an innate desire to push yourself, to learn, to be better.
And then you find your community along the way.
Exactly.
And with that, we'll have to conclude. Thank you again to our panelists. Thank you again to you for being here today. Thank you to our fabulous members and partners, Tom Kligerman. Tom Kligerman, I want to shout you out because we mentioned the foundation that you've given so much leadership to. Thank you. And Marla, over to you. Thanks again.
Michael, Beth, Jonathan, Vani, that was spectacular, and what a powerful message about community. And I think we're coming out of this with a couple DLN party ideas, because I kind of like this watercolor party idea.
Absolutely.
Everybody has to paint.
Caftini.
Exactly. Well, thank you all for joining us. This was an amazing way to cap off our first day of NBD. This was fabulous. And if you are interested, please join us out back, outside here, for some books and some book signings. Thank you.